You did not fall today. You've been falling for years. And perhaps you still don't know the name of what is destroying you. But today, the door has opened, and what lies beyond it is not comfort. It is truth. In the beginning, man walked between shadow and light. His soul was anchored by an invisible, unshakable covenant with what was sacred. His body was a temple, and his spirit a priest. Authority had been given, not because of what he did, but because of who he was. He was made in the image, the guardian of the garden, the ruler of created things. But something whispered in the silence of the soul, something small, something that slithered between the leaves of the heart, a desire, not the holy desire to create, but the corrupt craving to possess, to dominate, to chase pleasure severed from purpose. And like Adam before the tree of knowledge, the modern man stretched out his hand toward what promised power, but delivered chains. Masturbation is not just an act, it's an altar, a sacred space where a man sacrifices his spiritual authority. The locked door, the dim screen, the headphones in. These are the props of a private ritual, a solitary cult, a false sanctuary where life is drained, not given, where masculinity is bartered for shadows. Every time a man returns to this secret habit, he's not just indulging the flesh, he's signing a spiritual contract with illusion. The mind is deceived, the spirit falls silent, the soul withdraws. The serpent curls itself into the circuits of pleasure, and what was meant to give life becomes a slow death. Desire, when divorced from divine purpose, turns demonic. It doesn't satisfy, it devours. What begins as curiosity becomes a craving. The still image on the screen mutates into a false archetype, a dominating force in the psyche. Woman, the sacred feminine, becomes an object, and man, the guardian of covenant, becomes a servant of the idol. In Jungian terms, the man who feeds on ritualized masturbation surrenders his conscious persona to the unconscious shadow. And when the shadow is not confronted, it grows. It festers with addiction, narcissism, and isolation. The man who isolates to indulge artificial pleasure emerges more fragmented, more drained, further from himself. Then comes the cycle: guilt, regret, promises. Then relapse, resignation, darkness. The soul groans for freedom, but the flesh is addicted. The eyes, meant to seek glory, are trained to scan for pixels. The creative force within, meant to spark life, is funneled into a drain of hedonism. In spiritual reality, masturbation is not neutral. It's betrayal. It's the abandonment of the altar of communion for the altar of ego. The man disconnects from the logos, the word, the truth. He starts living by sensations, by images, by illusions. He's no longer king over his body. He's a puppet, pulled by wires of impulse. And why is it so hard to stop? Because sexual addiction disguises itself as comfort. It pretends to soothe, but it enslaves. It offers relief, prophets, but it numbs the desert soul. Warriors. They train their bodies and spirits to resist the fire of lust, not to suppress their energy, but to redirect it. They knew sexual power, when restrained and consecrated, became spiritual force, not just for celibacy, but for battle, for mission, for leadership. Porn and masturbation aren't just moral problems. They are weapons of war, instruments of spiritual castration, distractions designed to pull men off watch. They disarm, they confuse, they weaken. Like Delilah cutting Samson's hair while he sleeps, While a man gives himself to masturbation, he abandons the battlefield. He forgets his assignment. He drops the sword. The priest leaves the temple. The father leaves the home. The lion turns back into prey. And it all begins with a lie. Just tonight, it's just a release. No one will know. But someone always knows. Your spirit knows. Heaven keeps record, and hell rejoices. The illusion of desire is the seed of the fall. It's poison in a golden cup. It's the kiss of the harlot that leads to death. And if man does not awaken, he will be reduced to fragments, unable to love, to lead, to stand. But all is not lost. Truth begins with pain, the pain of recognizing the lie, the pain of staring in the mirror and seeing what you've become, the pain of realizing you've walked off the path, that you've traded your throne for a locked room. But this pain is holy. It is the pain that precedes awakening, the ache that announces light, and it opens the gate to the next part of the journey, the dark night of the soul. But before you step forward, be still. Place your hand over your heart, close your eyes, and speak. Father, I've been weak. I've traded your presence for crumbs of pleasure. I bowed before dead images, but today, I see. Today, I rise. Give me strength to fight. Give me eyes to see. Give me discipline to resist. I am no longer a slave. I am a son, and sons return. Part 2. The Dark Night of the Soul. There comes a moment when the soul can no longer bear the weight of its own silence. When the walls of the dark room start speaking. When the whisper of addiction becomes a scream of torment. This is where the dark night of the soul begins. It's not ordinary sadness, not just exhaustion. It is collapse, a spiritual rupture, a hollowness that pleasure can no longer fill, that promises can't soothe, that empty prayers can't reach. The soul, disfigured by repetition and compromise, begins to groan. And that groan is too deep to ignore. Every man who descends into the valley of compulsive masturbation eventually reaches this place. That moment when the pleasure no longer pleases, when the body goes through the motions, but the spirit screams for air. The touch no longer comforts. That's when he realizes he's not just caught in a habit, he's enslaved. Worse, he's divided. One part longs for freedom, hungers for light. The other is like a chained dog, barking for more. This is the battlefield. And the enemy isn't out there, it's within. In this stage, many men give up. They rename their addiction as nature. They call their weakness freedom. They package their collapse as self-exploration. They lie to themselves, using polished words, soft therapy, and diluted spirituality. But none of that silences the soul's cry. Nothing heals the invisible wound. The dark night of the soul is not punishment. It is divine surgery. It is the wilderness. The place where God seems silent but is watching. It's where the man walks through the ruins of his own inner temple. A temple not torn down by demons, but by his own hands. By every click, every compromise, every time he chose shadow over presence. And now comes shame. Not shallow shame, not guilt that makes you blush, but shame that burns, that makes a man curl inward, go silent, avoid mirrors. It's the same shame Adam felt after biting the fruit, the shame that made him hide from his father. This nakedness is not about the body, it's spiritual. It's the soul stripped bare, the realization that while he looked strong on the outside, he was hollow inside. That while he appeared free, he was deeply bound. That while he moved like a man, he was rotting within. And here, some cry for help. But beware, help without truth deepens the prison. Many modern therapists will deny the spiritual nature of the struggle. They'll tell you it's just chemicals, just behavior, just a need for self-acceptance. But a real man knows this is a war for authority. Masturbation doesn't just drain your energy, it steals your clarity, your confidence, your spiritual voice. It eats away at your belief that you can lead, that you can build, that you can love. How can a man love a woman when his heart is scattered across thousands of images? How can he protect a family if he cannot protect himself from his own desires? In the dark night of the soul, the man must do what few are willing to do. Stay. Don't flee. Don't distract. Don't negotiate. Stand. Look in the mirror of your soul. Face the monsters. Let your spirit scream and scream back. It is in this blackness that the first flame begins to flicker. Not a fire of lust, but a fire of hunger. Not for pleasure, but for purity. Not for relief, but for redemption. A memory awakens. There was once a mission. There was once a voice. There was once a God. But ascent only begins after mourning. A man must weep for his fall. He must repent, not shallow apologies, but holy sorrow. He must fall to his knees and cry, "I destroyed the altar. I bowed." When I kept silent, my bones wasted away through my groaning all day long. Psalm 32:3. He knew the truth. The soul rots in silence. And masturbation, when made a habit, is not just sin. It is surrender. It rejects your priestly call as a man. You are made to give life, not waste it, to cover your home with prayer, not with shame, to lead with honor, not fall in disgrace. The dark night of the soul is not the end, it is the beginning, the herald of dawn. But it must be crossed, not skipped, not numbed, not denied. And when all feels lost, something happens. A whisper, a memory, a verse, a breath, a voice from the heavens. Rise, man. There is still time. I still know your name. There's still a sword for you to wield. This is how the night ends, and the dawn begins, the dawn of the third part, the awakening of the watchman. But first, be still, bow your head, and pray. Lord, I am in the valley, surrounded by shadows, but I cry out for your light. I don't want to hide anymore. I don't want to negotiate with darkness. Awaken my soul. Rekindle the fire I lost. Give me eagle eyes, warrior feet, and the heart of a son. I'm done running. I'm ready to return. Part 3. The Awakening of the Watchman. Awakening doesn't begin when your eyes open. It begins when your soul shakes. After the dark night, when everything seems burned to ash, when guilt has carved deep trenches into your chest, when heaven feels silent as stone, something breaks, not like a thunderclap, but like a forgotten echo rising from within. The soul remembers. It was never made for slavery. It was born for glory. The awakening of the watchman is that sacred turning point where a man realizes the war is real and he's been sleeping through it. He begins to hear the difference between two voices, the voice of accusation and the voice of calling. Accusation says, "You're filthy, you're finished, you're beyond saving." But calling says, "Rise up, take your place, there is still a mission with your name on it." That's when the heart begins to burn, not for lust, but for presence, not for the body, but for truth. The man who once stumbled back from his private shame now begins to stand, like someone who's escaped a prison camp. He may be bruised, he may be tired, his hands may still tremble, but his eyes, they're awake. He has seen, he knows what darkness really is, and he's done bowing to it. Now he begins to rebuild his inner temple. He understands this is not just about quitting a habit. This is about killing a false identity and rising into sonship. He's not negotiating with sin anymore. He's declaring war. The computer, the phone, the bed that once served as the altar of lust, these now become sacred ground. His bedroom becomes a place of fire, prayer. No longer a slave to the body, he becomes commander of the spirit. He knows now, one small compromise opens the door to collapse. One careless night can break a vow. And so, he chooses vigilance. He chooses war. His spirituality stops being theory. It becomes food, fire, breath. The Bible isn't just a religious book. It becomes his sword, his mirror, his battle manual. And in it, he sees other men like him. broken, hunted, but called. David, Samson, Peter, Paul, not perfect, but chosen, not pure, but purified. Awakening sharpens time. He sees the years stolen by addiction, the relationships he could have built, the influence he should have carried, the strength he wasted on the floor of his secret rituals. And this realization hurts, but it also frees, because now he knows he will not waste another day. Masturbation is no longer temptation, it is the enemy. Pleasure is no longer the pursuit, it is the byproduct of holy alignment. His body, once the instrument of compromise, is now a consecrated weapon, and most importantly, the man looks up. He starts speaking to the Father again, not with shame, but with boldness. He realizes the blood of the Lamb doesn't just cover eternity, it covers today, that he doesn't need to be perfect, to be powerful, just surrendered to be restored. Now he remembers the power of a vow. He makes commitments, not out of legalism, but out of honor. He vows with his time, his eyes, his energy, his seed. He says, "My body will no longer serve private fantasy. It will be a vessel of glory, a carrier of legacy." And this vow becomes a weapon. When temptation knocks, he doesn't entertain it. He answers with conviction, "I made a vow, and my vow is my sword." Now he walks differently, talks differently, thinks differently. He doesn't chase comfort. He builds the altar. He stops isolating and starts leading. He finds other men, men who've awakened, men who fight, men who burn, men who don't bow to pleasure but stand for presence. And now he sleeps in peace, not because the war is over, but because he's fighting the right one. He is no longer distracted. He is no longer numb. He is awake. He is watchful. He is positioned. And from this place of fire and focus begins the final movement of this journey, the return of the guardian. But before that, be still. Place your hand on your chest. Breathe deep. Pray like a soldier reporting for duty. Lord, awaken the warrior in me. Give me eyes to see and hands to fight. Teach me to guard my heart, protect my house, and stand watch over your kingdom. Let my body be your temple. Let my time be your altar. Let my voice be your trumpet. I am awake. I am watchful. I am yours. Part 4. The Return of the Guardian. The man who returns from war never comes back the same. He bears scars. He carries stories. But most of all, he comes back with new eyes. Eyes that have stared into the pit of hell, but not as before. He is no longer just a man trying to survive temptation. He is a priest of fire, a soldier of sacred resolve. The man who once bowed before pixels now lifts his eyes to the heavens. The man who once spilled his energy for nothing now pours it into purpose. The body, once ruled by impulse, now answers to the spirit. The soul, once deadened by screens and shame, now burns with mission. The guardian is the man who finally knows. His life is no longer his own. He was bought, redeemed, recommissioned. Not because he earned it, but because God never revoked the call. And that grace, it burns. What was once a pattern of sin has now become a vow of war. This return is built on 3 pillars: watchfulness, vow, voice. Watchfulness because the enemy never sleeps. The serpent still circles. The flesh still calls. But now he sees. He anticipates. He positions himself. And if he falls, he doesn't hide. He repents. He rises. He moves forward. Because guardians don't fake perfection, they walk in truth. Vow, because this man doesn't come back empty. He returns with a fire-forged commitment in his bones. He made promises in the valley. He cried them out on his knees. He said, "No more wasted time, no more stolen seed, no more sacred energy spilled on shadows." His body is no longer a playground. It is a temple of war, and that vow guides him. Temptation may whisper, but his vow roars louder. I made a covenant, and my covenant is a blade. Voice, because the guardian does not return in silence. He returns with a message, a warning, a trumpet blast to the next generation. He becomes the voice crying out in the wilderness, "Wake up, come out, return to the altar." He understands now. Spiritual authority is not forged in public. It is forged in the secret war, in the battles no one sees, in the prayers no one hears, in the moments when lust calls, and he answers, "No, I know who I am now." He walks into his home different. He sees his wife, not as a toy, but as a sacred ally. He sees his future children, not as burdens, but as arrows. He sees the world, not as entertainment, but as a battleground. He accepts his mission, and that mission is clear: to protect, to guide, to build, to be the bridge between heaven and earth. The very bridge the enemy tried to break with addiction. But God rebuilt it. Stronger, deeper, fireproof. The guardian returns with scars, but also with oil, anointing, authority, covering, fire. He didn't just break a habit, he reignited the masculine flame, and that makes him dangerous. Dangerous to hell, because he says, "Come, leave the hiding place. The time of watchfulness has come. The temple will be rebuilt, the altar will burn again, and the king is coming back." And so the guardian becomes a father, not just to sons of blood, but to sons of fire, to brothers, to tribes. Because the vow of one man can build the walls of many. Now listen carefully. You, man of dust and fire, you are this guardian. You've been called, you've been chosen, you've been set apart. Masturbation wasn't just an act, it was an ambush, a plan to steal your seed, your clarity, your voice. But now you know. Now you've awakened. Now you return. So close your eyes, stand like a soldier, and pray. Lord of hosts, I return to my post. Forgive me for abandoning the altar. Forgive me for dishonoring my authority. Today I make a vow. My life is yours. My body is yours. My seed belongs to your legacy. Use me as a weapon of war. Raise me up as a prophetic voice. Clothe me in the mantle of the guardian. Let me protect, guide, and build. I was not born for slavery. I was born for the kingdom, and today I return.